I know you've been mentioning the Gold Coast, so people listening might not have realized that you're actually Ghanaian.
Yes.
Grandma is Ghanaian. You married a Nigerian, which is why we're having this conversation with you today in Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah.
So let's go into your marriage. How did that happen?
When we graduated, when I graduated, I joined, the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship Group.
Okay.
They held house parties during the summer. So we went to Gloucestershire for a house party. And usually it's overseas students who did not go home to their different countries during the long vac.
Yes.
Who spend their holidays like that. So I went there, and I met some wonderful people. So, and the British Council organized this type of thing. So they had our dresses and everything. They knew I'd just graduated. That was in 1960. I just graduated, by the way, I didn't do the B.Mus, Bachelor of Music.
Okay.
I did B.A.
Bachelor of Arts?
Music. Yes.
Okay.
So and I'd been accompanying some of the carols and the things at this house party. The house party is about 7 or 8 days. You live there. We did our own cooking, supervised by the matron, and we slept in different bunk, old castles and things like that. And the funny thing that when we were leaving, the British Council announced that they were receiving new students from abroad. Could some of us go and entertain them, those who had been there for a long time? So I went there with another girl whom I met at camp. And she was a pianist, brilliant pianist. So we met at camp and we became friends. And so we were invited to go and entertain at this new students gathering. So when we went there, there were people singing, there were people playing. This girl played, and I also played. And I played a show of peace.
A show of peace.
Bam, 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 bam.
Oh, you were showing off.
Yes. Which I shouldn't be doing, but I did.
Oh, it's allowed sometimes.
No, it's a very fast piece, and it goes from one side of the piano to the other. And anyway, when we finished, they were clapping and jubilating. Then after that, the Scripture Union, a British Council, they got lots of books. They were, on sale, like that you could buy. After that, we had drinks, we have squashes, and we have sandwiches that somebody brought, and little cakes and things. And so we went, so when we closed, this girl went, and then I was going to go. But I saw the long list of books, so I was going to check. So when I went there, who was there? Ashofolu Soyannwo, looking after the books. This man, this black man. So he said, what did I want to buy? I look. I think I bought one book on Tuesday. So he said, oh, you play very well. So I said, thank you. Then I said, sorry, I have to go. I didn't know his name. I have to go, I have to get the bus. And the bus should be about now. So he said he had also finished. So he walked me to the bus. So we were walking together and together like this. We saw the bus coming. So he said, come on, come on. So he started trotting. So he ran there and went and climbed, into the bus. They said, come on, try. So I also jumped and got on the bus just before it was starting, and then swung me in, and both of us laughed. And that was it. Where are you going? I'm going to Oxford Circus. And he said, I said, where? He said, I'll take you there. So it took me all the way, and I was in a little hostel near All Saints Langham Place. I still remember. And Queen Anne's Mews. At the end is a close, but it's even covered. I think they call it Mews. So we walked from the bus stop, and we got to the. So I said, "That's my hostel." So I stood, so that he would go. So he also stood. Stop. So he said, "Oh, bye." So I said, "Thank you so much." So I got in and left. So after I got in, I don't know the man's name. I said, what does it matter? It was kind of him, So that was it. So I went to Westminster Chapel, and then as I was in the church, when there are about only 4 or 5 black people, you will know them, you will see them. So I saw one black man in front, but in front on my right hand side. So it looks as if I've seen him before. So after church now, and somebody was running after me. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. It was, I call him Pasho. It was this man. So he said, hey. So I said, oh, it's you. I said so. It's you I saw in church, and you were not listening to the sermon. Because you turned round to be looking my way. He laughed and said, oh, that makes 2 of us.
Because
how did you know I was looking at you? So we laughed and laughed and laughed. And that was it. Oh, where are you going? I said, oh, I said where I was going, but not the same place, because I'd now, changed my this. So he said, oh, let's have a cup of coffee. And so we did. And that was it. So we saw each other. Then that same year, my father was coming to England. And so he would call almost every other day. Oh, when is your daddy arriving? When is your daddy arriving? And daddy came.
So I know that because you're a Ghanaian and because he's Nigerian, there was some tussle, so to speak. And your father didn't particularly want the marriage. So how did that work out eventually?
Well, my father would not dictate. My father would not dictate and tell me you're not marrying anyone, but we just assumed that I was going to marry a Ghanaian. I mean, it's an assumption. And I also,
naturally
didn't think I was going to marry anybody out of my country, because I'm a very emotional person. I mean, even leaving home to go to boarding schools, I cried.
So how much
leaving home
more?
to go to Achimota, I cried. Leaving Achimota to come to England, I cried. And leaving Durham to come and live now in London, like, when they see me off, I'm always tearful. And now you say this person is after you, wanting to marry you. So he, arranged to come to Britain, not to find out, but to see what was happening.
Had he heard?
Oh yes.
Oh wow.
Because I mean, we wrote letters every week.
Oh.
And we received letters from my parents almost every other week. Those days, air letter would take about 4 or 5 days. So they know everything. They are like, it's like a diary. What we did during the, we went to Newcastle for this, we went to music theater, and I did it. And it wasn't painful. In my Bible, now I have some letters that my father had written to me about 50 years ago. To mark Bible pages. Although I have things to, and my mom's letters, lots. So we are letter writers. And my father came not to say no or yes, or he didn't show dislike, but he showed why that choice outside your country. You always crying when when you leave home. Now you're going to leave your country and things like that. And so I didn't do anything. But when he came, my father came, Liverpool, arrived at Liverpool. In those days, you didn't fly by air, by air. Only very few people went by air. I'm talking of 60 years ago. He came by train, and I'm only a girl, and my father was my father, and I wasn't expecting him to pull boxes and things. But he turned up at the train station, and he helped my father to do this. And then my father said, who is this? Who is this? My father is the most gentle man. He never a harsh word, not like my mom. So he said, so I said, this is a young man I told you about in the letter, who was at the place where I played at the concert. And he took me home. And after church, he had been seeing me, we'd had a cup of coffee and things. So I mentioned that you were coming. And so he came.
He decided to come to help.
Yes, to help. He took us all the way home, and settled my father. But before then, he helped for me to find a place for my father and me. A one-bedroom apartment, and the sitting room was, you could fold the chairs into a bed. So my father stayed in the bedroom, and I lived in the one bed sitter. Then he used to come and visit us.
So your father fell in love with him?
From word go. Because when he met my father, do you know what he did? He prostrated.
The Nigerian way of greeting.
And my father said, don't worship me.
Don't worship.
And it was funny. So we started laughing. My father is very humorous. He said, so what language do you speak? Thought that he was a Ghanaian, Ashanti, or from Kumasi or somewhere. What did he said, I'm from Ijebu. What? That's the only thing my father knew. He just had some Nigerian friends in Ghana. So we used to laugh about my father trying to speak some funny Yoruba language and things like that. I was then in the London University postgraduate course. So when I finished, I had to come home. My father took me by train to go on the Oriole in Liverpool. He came with us. And oh, yeah, I was, moping till we got there and we got on the ship. You could get on the ship at any time. So they took me onto the ship, into my cabin and everything, and then we talked and laughed and had lunch and things like that. Then when they announced that the ship was about to go, and I was very sad. Then he said to me, he said, this was my father. He said, called him Papa. We call my father Papa Yo. Yo means dear, or darling, or precious. So he said, so he calls me Papa Yo. That's what he called me, Papa Yo. I'm going to resign from the port of London, where I've worked for so many years. And in 3 months, can I go and marry your daughter? That's how the proposition, it didn't come to me, it came to
Went to your father.
But before then, my father had letters from his parents saying that they'd heard. So the parents continued to write, my father continued to write to them, said he didn't have the last say. It's a family. So that's how it happened.
So eventually you got married and you moved to Nigeria.
Yes.
So just like you said, you're very emotional.
Yes.
To go to anywhere you were crying. So
yes.
did you cry to come?
Oh, yes. Yes. When I got to Ghana, I had to stay in Ghana for 1 year and more. Before I could leave. But I was married a term before I left. But before then, the parents came. I think the whole of Ijebu turned up.
In Ghana?
Never seen anything. And his mother is a very, very, very well-known, important educationist.
Wow.
She took over from the missionaries. So she was so happy I was an educationist.
It was a perfect match.
So we became friends from day one. And the funny thing that I arrived, it was the Minister of Education who met me on the plane.
Wow.
Hey, what did they tell him? I felt so embarrassed. I thought I would see my husband. I didn't see him.
You met the Minister of Education?
Yes, Iwachuku.
Wow.
Yes, I remember very, very well. And I ate my first eba meal in that house. Have you eaten today? I said, no, I hadn't eaten. We don't care for anything. We don't eat. What do you want to eat? I said, anything that you eat, I'll eat. They said, we are eating eba.
So your first meal upon landing in Nigeria, yes. The first time in your life, is eba. With what soup?
Hot. So, although I was crying, I was doing it as if I was laughing. I hid it with my laughter, and I said, oh, can I have some water? So they put the fan on, and I swallowed the eba with the okra, very little stew, and they treated me beautifully. Then I was to be there. I was there when my husband-to-be arrived to collect me. Hey, so we flew in my, into my arms. Then he said, "Oh, what's making you cry again?" So I said, "Oh, the pepper was hot. It was hot pepper." So we laughed. I said, "You have been christened."
Wow.
Yes. So we laughed, and then we drove from Lagos to Ijebu. There was no traffic like this. And even getting to the evening, it wasn't scary. You were safe. When I got there, Mama's best friends, Mama Ijebu's best friends, they were all seated there. And I was tutored to kneel down to all of them. He would introduce, that's
your husband?
That's Mama. No, it won't be my husband now.
Okay, she was introducing you to her friends.
Yes.
Then you were kneeling down for them one by one.
So they never allowed me to reach the floor. By the time I was coming down, they got up and then hugged me. They showed me, so I did not understand.
But was there any major culture shock for you? And this is for, you know, there are many people who, even if you're Nigerian, they are interracial, intertribal, inter-ethnic marriages. So what were some of the culture shocks you faced and how did you overcome them?
Like this kneeling, it got to a point where we had our Thanksgiving from the wedding. They did traditional and white wedding, and when we came back, the shock was how many people I was kneeling down. Hundreds. So I said, look, I don't have a strong enough knee to kneel down to all these thousands. He said, all right, I will tell you whom to kneel down.
Oh,
so
wow.
He helped me. Then I said, yes, you can kneel down to this. It's very, very important. Then I would go. And none of them allowed me to get to the floor. They were just wonderful. So I said, oh, so is that all?
Just to kneel. Just
to kneel, and that's it. And then they were very nice to me. And nicer still, they gave me lots of money. Yawo.
So besides the kneeling, did you have to learn to cook things like Nigerian food for him and all of those things?
Yes, I did. Where we stayed was my uncle's Yoshosami's home in Ibadan. When we got married, we got there. And the Mama Yoshosami taught me, when she was cooking things like egusi, said, your husband loves this, so you better learn how to make it. Then I'll go and watch. You can hear the birds.
You can hear the birds?
It's telling you that it's going to rain.
Ah, okay.
My husband interpreted it for me. So, and taught me how to make the amala. You know, the water boils and you pour it in and start stirring it, and so I can make amala. I can make eba. But my husband doesn't like it cooked. When the water boils and you pour it in, you know, cover it and leave it.
Yes. Then not the one that you cook on the gas making the eba.
And that's how I make it. I make my own because I eat about once. It's not a regular meal for me. So they taught me how to cook that, and they didn't teach me how to make it kokore, but I watched, and I'd made it before. I know the food that you have to do godo gidi, and I used to call it gidi godo to make them all laugh. And
so did you teach him how to eat any Ghanaian food as well? A whole lot?
Yeah, a lot. Or at times when I'm driving home and he would phone me while I'm driving home and say, I'll be home at such and such time. Could you make some groundnut stew? A la Ghana. Then I will make it. And he loves it. He loves it with in Ghana, he loves it with pounded green plantain. Green plantain pounded. Now they've made it into a powder.
Interesting.
like pound dough.
Yeah.
And it's very, very nice. And he eats it with it. And then palm nut stew, which you call here banga.
Oh.
We make it. Oh, in the Ghanaian home, almost every day they must have it with fufu. What we call fufu is not your fufu.
It's not our own fufu.
But it's the pounded something. Pounded either cocoyam, pounded yam, pounded green plantain, or pounded cassava. Usually people mix the cassava and the plantain together.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
moi moi.
You learned moi moi.
Yes, I learned how to make moi moi and how. But it's running out of the leaves. He said, yes, you hold this like a cup now, and then you fold this, and you see.
Oh, so he taught you how to make moi moi and put it in the leaf.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he was the first of 5 sons. And so there was nobody to help the mother in the kitchen. The boys did. So he could cook.
Fantastic.
Very, very, very well.
And you were married for 50 plus years. You were happily married. Let me not just even married. For 50 plus years.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, is the secret to a long-lasting, happy marriage?
The thing that at the beginning, we didn't sort of promise each other. Well, we had a habit of if somebody offended you, if one offended, you didn't keep it and keep malice. Like not talking to, but I know happens in many homes or many friendships.
Yes.
And he too, when he's annoyed, he'll let you know. He'll let you know. You big opposition member, something like that. When I don't call him by his name, and he said, the tradition where I come from, your wife cannot call you your name. So I said, oh, so how do you call each other? You go and touch the person. And then he will laugh. And then he will say, oh, you coin a name for me. So I didn't coin a name. So I coined a whistle, which sounded like a shofonue.
Oh, so that was how you would call him?
For 51 years.
With the whistle?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, but then he couldn't whistle anymore the last year.
So was that how he would call you as well?
No, he would call me, or always call me, Ed. So many of my friends call me Ed too.
Wow, this is so interesting. So you've said you don't fight, and then the name calling, any other things? Because, and I'm asking because just, in these days, it's like marriages are, people get married today, that's the word, traumatized.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've even done counseling maybe for young couples that you went to their marriages and you hear 1 year later something has gone on. What do you think maybe are the things that maybe we, the younger generation, are not doing, or we're doing wrong, or I don't know, that you think, we can learn from?
Oh, I think what is going wrong now is that people have not committed everything in their lives into God's hands. The things that they think they can do. Therefore, it doesn't mean that they are discarding God, but they didn't think one has to commit everything. I mean, to be able to commit everything into God's hands, like a marriage. You leave your own home and you come here. And one of the things that he said to me was, I'll never be tired of you.
That's so sweet.
Something like this happened. I made him laugh, because everything I say it wrongly in Yoruba. and then giggles, and then things happen, and then that he won't be tired. And so, So, and he showed in his life that he wasn't tired. And when, for example, he was upset at work, and he came in and said, I'm not laughing now. You know, he would say, I'm not laughing, so don't find out what's wrong first. What I think I can tell you. And then, no, but you will eat? Oh, yes. So I will give you, or if, and things like that. And if people don't respect a husband like a husband, and they think perhaps they've got their degrees, they are big people. Do you understand? Educationally, they are successful. It's perhaps a man. So they don't think this one is. I can see it happening, where you can see a man who is not that highly educated married to a lady who is very well educated. And so there's a probability that she would spurn the husband. Not necessarily being rude, but you know.
There's a certain way you can look down at him
without saying
it.
Yes. Or how you put the food on the table. Jerry, and things like that. You know, they should be very careful. If they are tired and the way you serve the food will taste nicer to the man. That's why when you serving food and the stew pours on the side, you leave it like that, and it will taste different from when you serve it very well with love. Ooh, I hope you love this. It's just a sentence.
You touched on something that I would just let us go to now, because you're talking about women that are very educated or very accomplished. And I want us to talk about balance.
Good.
Balance in being an accomplished woman,
yes,
but you're also trying to keep the home.
Yes.
And you're also a mother.
I have 5.
You have 5 children. I mean, your career path, your CV alone is so full.
Yes.
You came to Nigeria, you've done head of Corona, Queen's College, King's College, Muson Center, and yet you had your home running.
Yes.
How did you balance all these things and still be the woman that was a woman in all aspects?
Now, that's where I will tell you factually that I didn't succeed. Okay. When I say I didn't succeed, I'll give you just one example. I had 5 children before the eldest was 7.
So you had them in succession. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, literally. Yes. Wow.
And so he saw that it was a lot for me.
It would be.
So I would do everything. And then I used to bake bread. I would knead bread at night, make it rise, and early in the morning put it in the oven so that they can have bread in the morning. 5 of them before I used to look after the homework, and some of them will hide their homework until they are going to school. And then, where is the homework? Then then I will be chasing them. They will be jumping from chair to chair. And they overcame. You know, I overcame. But by the evening, after he has known how much I've done, he would come and say, I will take the children to bed. And so then I can have time to look after marking. And I always marked. I taught them, so that's why the students liked my teaching. I marked. I didn't, you know. Now the funny thing is that he was also tired.
Exactly.
So he would come, we would take the children and we would take them to bed without me there, you know. So first we will sing the nursery rhymes. Joy, 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 my heart is feeling. Joy, 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 when love to me is known. My sins are all forgiven. I'm on my way to heaven. My heart is bubbling over with this joy, joy, joy. So I said, come on, go to bed now. Joy, joy, joy. And some of the songs that my mom sang for us, I taught them. So they would sing, and their father would take them to bed. Let's say about 8 o'clock. You know, 8 o'clock. That's after we've persisted and persisted and persisted at 8 o'clock, then he will take them to bed. Now, after about 10 minutes, you see them all coming back. Tiptoeing, coming out. Oh, I thought Daddy said it was good. Oh, we've put him to bed. They have put him to bed.
They put their daddy to bed.
Yeah. And then eventually I still have to go and put them there. But the youngest ones, like the babies, with 3 bottles. I had 3 children under 3 at one time. With 3 bottles. So you say I couldn't cope with all that. So I'll put all those bottles on their bed where he was sleeping. Huge bed where you know, he was sleeping with one child here with a bottle, another child here, and the bottles were all shaded. White for the youngest, mid white for the second youngest, and then the 3-year-old was you know, and they all 3. So when I had sisters who had twins. So they said, did you also have twins? I said, no, I had triplets. Because I had 3, but then I explained later that I had 3, because 36 napkins on the line.
Wow.
And in those days, they didn't have any disposables and things like that. It was difficult. It was difficult. I didn't get as angry. When I was tired, I slept. That's why I was telling you at the beginning, in the morning, I said, Ed, it's time for this or for that.
Wow.
You see? So now, what I'm saying is that, and it gets to a time when you are exhausted, that you could go out of temper.
Yeah.
But it was so, I mean, when I did, and I did a lot of that. When I did, my husband would say that, oh, that's like a Spitfire. Or so we'll say something funny about my, you know, he didn't pay me back in my own words. Like if I was, oh, I'm tired. You didn't say, you think you are the only one tired? No, it doesn't happen like that. Like, oh, you are very tired. Okay. Let me help you. Help me with what? Stirring the stew? Or do you see what I mean? So he understands. Oh, he's done a lot for me. Taking, you know, patience, and then support.
Yeah.
At a point where he could not, you know, when he stopped working, and I was working. And then when I came back from school, I had lots of piano pupils from different, not from one particular school, but anywhere. And I was doing that, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes, not every day. So whilst I was doing that, perhaps he would be playing football with the boys, and the girls would go with their nanny for a walk or something like that. You know, he was so supportive. And then the most touching thing he did to show, when I talk about being woken up.
Yes, ma'am.
And when he was in hospital, you know, he was very, very ill. I think, you know, in hospital, nurses came to take blood pressure and things very early. I think before 6 o'clock. And at that time, he asked the nurse or whoever to call me.
To help to wake you up?
Yes.
Wow.
We wouldn't say wake my
He's just
wife
saying
up.
call
He said,
her.
Please, could you call my wife for me?
Wow.
Yes. And then they will call me. Oh, and you know, Baba said we should call you. He said, oh, all right. Then I said, oh, tell him I love him, that I'll see him later.
Wow.
He was still calling me.
That is amazing.
It was amazing. You know, these are the things that we helped each other. We help each other. You don't say, but I'm doing all this all the time, like the story of Mary and Martha. I thought, cool down. You know, he was more, he was quite tough and strict to everybody else. One of the sons put it in his write-up that Daddy didn't spare us at all. The only person I'd never seen him angry with was Mommy. And now I start to think of it. Oh, has he been angry? No. Then it's true.
Wow.
You know, not that I hadn't done anything angry, you know, to anger him, but I had. But the advice I will give them that if you want your marriage to go on, ask God to act through you how to make him also want to cooperate. You see, it's not one-sided. It cannot be one-sided. And then something else that makes people laugh. I don't tell people because they will think, oh, I'm overdoing it. He doesn't allow me to buy meat or fish in the market.
Who buys it?
He. One of the reasons, not that he was showing off that I do it, but one of the reasons that he said, I buy things as if they are labeled with a price.
Oh, okay, so he felt you couldn't haggle.
What?
Was it because he felt you couldn't haggle? Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh, can bargain from 3 pence OB to halfpenny. Then I'm saying, what will be the woman's profits now? If she's losing, she won't sell it to you.
So would he go to the market to buy the fish and the meat?
Yes.
Wow.
No, it doesn't go to the ordinary white bag. Goes to the base.
To like the abattoir?
Yes. And buys a lot. Or goes and buys the whole thing and taught me how to smoke fish.
So that it lasts
one I
longer.
do.
Amazing.
That means these peculiar things that people will not believe it.